sir.
Good evening. If I may have your attention, I'll call the steering committee meeting to order. For reading and approval of the minutes, I'll call on Vice Chair Brad Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I've been able to review the minutes. I found them in order to make a motion for their approval.
If the motion is a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. First item on our agenda this evening is to fill a vacancy on the Conservation Board. This will fill the unexpired term of Mr. David Adams, and this term will expire February 2016. We have two applicants. They both are in the audience, Mr. Joe Phillips and Mr. Michael Shirley. We would like to call on each of them to address the committee and give us any statement that they would like. Is Mr. Joe Phillips?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate what you guys do. Chairman and distinguished board members, Mayor. I've been a lifelong resident of Rutherford County, born in 1957, went to Smyrna High School and MTSU graduate. I also teach at MTSU. I teach adjunct classes in the education department. I retired from the education system this past June. I was principal 15 years, in the school system for 30 years, and I worked for Mid-Cumberland Human Resources. Now I'm a case manager for underprivileged youth between 18 and 24 years old. I really just have lived all my life. I just want to give back. There's a lot of committees, and I see what you guys do and all the time you put in. I want to help in some way, and I know there's a couple of committees, and I just want to, help for Rutherford County to continue to grow and be on the right track. So I want to serve Rutherford County.
Well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips. Are there any questions for Mr. Phillips?
Have you served on any other county boards, Mr. Phillips?
No, it's not in the county. I was for about 4 years the library board in Laverne. I served there for about 4 years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, Mr. Shirley?
Hey, good evening. My name is Michael Shirley, and like Mr. Phillips, I've lived here my whole life. Not quite as long, but about 35 years. I currently am an agriculture teacher at Riverdale High School. Started there in February, and before that, for the previous 8 years, I worked for Tennessee State University and was assigned to Rutherford County and worked at the Extension office out on John Rice Boulevard. Through my role there, I had been to many conservation board meetings to represent the Extension office, so I'm very familiar with the program. And as a 4-H leader, that's what I did with Extension. Was in charge of many, obviously that's youth development, and actually worked with our county rec department, and we did archery at several of the gym nights across the county. So again, I'm very familiar with that program. I have 3 children, and our oldest son is 13 now, and he played ball out of Buchanan. That's where we live. It's in District 6 off of Lido Creek Road. So when I heard about this position and this opening and no longer working with Extension, I didn't think there was a conflict there. And so I just was interested in serving on this committee, and that's why I applied.
Thank you, Mr. Shirley. Any questions for Mr. Shirley from the committee? Okay, if not, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate both and move that we vote for one.
Okay, is there a second?
Thank
Okay.
Let me make a quick statement. I have could be obvious to some, a conflict of interest, and I will recuse myself or abstain from voting.
Okay. If you call the roll, Ms. Shirley.
Commissioner Johnson,
Mr. Shirley.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Mr. Shirley.
Commissioner Poole,
Shirley.
Commissioner Stevens,
Shirley.
Commissioner Turner,
Shirley.
Commissioner Pugh,
Mr. Shirley.
Mr. Shirley.
Mr. Shirley, your name will be submitted to the full county commission on May 14th at 6 p.m. And thank you, Mr. Phillips, for also applying.
Yes.
Second item on our agenda is to fill a vacancy on the Equalization Board to fill the unexpired term of Mr. David Adams. This term will expire on April 2016. And we also have two nominations, or two applications for this position, Mr. Joe Phillips and Mr. John Barbie. Again, I'll ask the candidates if they would like to make a statement to the committee. Mr. Phillips?
Well, total by myself, I'm in the 14th district here, live close to the VA hospital. Again, I just want to serve and help. It's a good choice that y'all chose for the conservation board. It's like a fine young man. He'll do a great job. I just want to serve and help any way that I can.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Phillips? Mr. Barbie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have over 20 years' experience appraising property. Served as a property assessor for this county for 4 years. Worked at that office for a little over 12 years. Have met with this equalization board many times. Served last year as an alternate on this board. And this is an area that I have a good bit of experience and knowledge in, and I, like Mr. Phillips, just to appreciate the opportunity to serve this county. County's been good to me. Giving something back to it is one of my goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbie. Any questions for Mr. Barbie? Mr. Barbie, did you say you're an alternate right now, or you?
Yes, sir.
You are an alternate. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
I move that we nominate both candidates and select one.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Same statement.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Shelton, if you call the roll.
Commissioner Johnson,
Mr. Barbie.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Mr. Barbie.
Commissioner P,
Barbie.
Commissioner Stevens,
Barbie.
Commissioner Turner,
Phillips.
Commissioner Gooch.
Mr. Barbie.
Mr. Barbie.
Mr. Barbie, your name will be submitted to the full commission May 14th at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is to fill a vacancy on the Codes Enforcement Board to fill the unexpired term of Mr. David Adams. This term would expire September 2017. We have just one applicant, Mr. Justin Harney. Is Mr. Harney in our audience? Then I'll accept a motion from the floor.
Move Mr. Harney be nominated and approved by acclamation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We need to announce a commissioner vacancy on the insurance committee to replace Commissioner Will Jordan. Announce two vacancies on the community care board, which is the seat of Mr. Greg Lyles and Jean Patterson. Announce two vacancies on the Limeball Library Board, seat being held by Mr. Daniel Graves and Suma Clark. Next, we need to recommend an attorney to support the Ethics Committee. I'd like to call to the table Mayor Ernest Burgess and Mr. Josh.
Mr. Josh McCreary, please.
So do you have a selection?
Okay, with the advice of Mr. Cope and his team of players over there, we had come up with three names. First is Mr. Tom Lee. He's with a firm in Nashville, Frost, Brown, and Todd. Next is Mr. John T. Bobo. He's a Bedford County attorney. He's also the county attorney for Bedford County. And third, Mr. Doug Berry, who is with the firm of Miller and Martin in Nashville. And Mr. Berry has represented, I don't know what a full-time, or he's not full-time, but substantially represented Franklin. So both he and Mr. Bobo are fully equipped and know government, inner workings, etc. The only person that we've actually asked so far is Mr. Tom Lee, and he's declined. So what we have here are two names that we think are very experienced and very able to do this, and we would like for this committee to recommend or consent to allow us to go to these next two folks, and the first one that tells us yes, we'd like for you to authorize us to make some arrangement with them for their services. And we'd like for you to think a little bit broader than just the Ethics Committee. There may be some need for our commission, for you folks to have some access to counsel as we go forward. We don't know that that's necessary, but we'd like for this to be broad enough to allow this person to at least assist us through this particular case that may involve your participation at some other different level as this unfolds in the future. So that's sort of where we are, and I don't know if Josh has anything he wants to add to that or not, but they are, I don't know these people in particular myself. I have some knowledge of Mr. Vogel, but the others I do not. But Josh and his team of folks certainly know that these are all eminently qualified people.
These are, I can speak to that briefly. These are people that I don't know them personally. These aren't people I eat dinner with or anything, but they are people that we've had professional contact with in our office over the years, and you know, are familiar with their credentials in terms of the ability to handle a county matter like this, and that's why they became the people recommended and discussed with the mayor. In addition, I think there was some thinking that it might be worthwhile to get somebody out of county, quite frankly, that doesn't have contacts inside the county for this type of engagement, and they met those criteria as well.
Would you just briefly repeat the credentials of each of those?
Sure. You want me to do that?
Yeah, but he has
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about him. John T. Bobo is an attorney in Shelbyville. He's been practicing a long time. I don't know exactly how. I'm sure in excess of 30 years, probably, in Bedford County. I think he's been the Bedford County attorney, according to their website, I think in excess of 20 years. He's been the Moore County attorney for a period of time, as I understand it. So certainly he's got experience with county-type matters. Doug Berry is an attorney who currently practices in Nashville at a firm called Miller & Martin. He was the City of Franklin attorney for a number of years. He had an office in Franklin, and I don't quite frankly know whether or not he was, I don't think he was full-time with the City of Franklin, but I think he was their contract attorney for a long period of time, a number of years, and continues to practice in areas of municipal law and county law and administrative matters and things like that.
Commissioner Pete?
Well, you know, this came from the committee that Commissioner Turner and myself, and of course, Mr. Beatty serve on. My personal feeling on this is we need somebody with some expertise in state law. I'm basically needing advice. I don't think, unless, and I'm asking you a question, do you think this guy is going to end up representing us? Or in my case, I'm only looking for advice on how to interpret the state laws that I was looking at and how far we should dig. So the question is, to me, are we looking for somebody just to interpret the law too for this committee and give us advice on what we weren't sure of the other day? And if you don't concur with this, please let me know. And Mr. Beatty, I wish you'd speak up too. Or are we looking for somebody that's actually going to fight a case for us?
I think we're looking for someone simply right now to advise and give us interpretation of the laws, the state law, and how all this may be applicable.
I heard you say we might want to look at somebody that could represent us, or maybe did I misunderstand you?
Only for advice purposes.
Okay.
If this comes to the commission,
yeah, you threw me for a second.
There are questions there on what your authority is or what your abilities are, then this would just be the same advice kind of role. No, not representing us in any particular case, no.
Okay.
I have a few questions about this. To me, this is not going to be a really complicated case. I think any attorney would be able to handle this issue. Unlike the next one on our agenda with the litigation about the software, we definitely need somebody that's very skilled in litigation for that. But to me, I don't see why we couldn't hire somebody local to handle this for us. I hate to send money out of county and pay somebody to drive to Murfreesboro when we have people right around the corner that can do that for us. And do you know how much the hourly rate is for the people out of county?
We don't know what the rates are of this, but according to our legal services agreement, then it's our responsibility to see if we cannot hire them at the same rates that we currently have. So I would be proposing that Mr. Cope's rate would be the rate that we would use as the standard for the upside of what we would pay this, whoever we select.
And what's that again?
It's gone up a little bit, and I don't know the precise number, in the neighborhood of $270 plus or minus an hour.
Right. I think that's about right.
And I think that this attorney only needs to represent the ethics committee. I don't think that it needs to be someone who's beholden to other commissioners and other office holders in the county. I think the person needs to strictly advise the ethics committee. In fact, I would like in the contract to require that attorney to disclose to the ethics committee anybody who calls him to ask questions or try to influence him to do things, so that it minimizes the impact of other people that might try to get involved with this and sway one way or another. I think that the loyalty should be strictly to that committee to answer their questions and guide them. And if it's just somebody who's going to interpret the laws and explain to them what they should or should not recommend to the district attorney or the county attorney, I just can't see paying somebody from Nashville or Shelbyville to drive up here for a meeting. That just seems like a waste of money to me. We have an attorney here in town named Ted Goodman. He's an excellent attorney, and I reached out to him just to inquire about what his rate would be, and he told me that he would do it for a discounted rate of $190 an hour as a community service thing. He's very intelligent, he's a go-getter, and he's going to do things by the book. And you know, I have full confidence that he could handle this for us, and we wouldn't have to pay him the, an hour or two every time there's a meeting just to drive in.
Okay, respectfully, Mr. Stevens, you've already suggested this to me earlier, and I know you've talked to some other people since then. And I told you why I was not comfortable with that. Did I not?
You did.
This young man who is, I'm sure I'm not using, is a very capable attorney, but he was one of my 2 campaign people. It was on my payroll my first election cycle. And out of an abundance of caution, I am not comfortable with him representing the county when someone may say the mayor is influencing his interpretation or his guidance or counsel he's giving you folks. Further, this, I'm not going to be able to recommend that. And the part of our agreement says that I have to recommend this person. And it's up to you guys to agree with it, but I have to recommend, and our county attorney has to consent. And I'm not going to be able to recommend Mr. Goodman, even though he may be perfectly equipped to do this.
I have a question. You kind of alluded to maybe future use of this attorney. This will not be a recurring thing with this attorney. This will be a one-shot deal with the ethics committee.
Yes, sir.
You alluded something to the fact about advice later on down the line.
Well, let's suppose.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, excuse me.
It would not be in the event that Mr. Cope had to recuse himself from something else, that we would automatically use this attorney again for something else, correct?
That's correct. Only in this particular issue that's before the ethics committee now. If that issue then rises to the level of being referred to the commission for whatever action may occur later, that was the only thing I was suggesting. If you choose not to want to go to that second step, I don't have a problem with that. But if that were to happen, then we'd come back through this same process again, and you could determine then who we should use, if you wanted to use anyone at all.
Yeah, that's what I want to clarify. Thank you.
Commissioner McAdoo.
I myself personally love getting an attorney out of county, and I'll give you my reasons why. This is a touchy situation, and more than likely, the department that we're looking at, probably 90% or more of the attorneys here locally have dealt with that department in some form or fashion. And that's what I would be skeptical about. Then I'm gonna be looking at again, somebody holler, oh, it's a conflict of interest. So if I just bite the bullet now, get somebody from out of county, that had never dealt with any of these departments, I think we would be better off. That's just my opinion.
And I would like to be able to see it follow through if it gets to the commission. If the commissioners have a question, that they'll be able to talk with the attorney, ask a question of the attorney, and not just limit it to the members of the ethics committee. Because if it goes to the commission and then we've got questions, then we would need to be able to talk with someone about legal advice. So I would like to see it follow through with the ethics committee and the county commission also. But any other discussion?
How are these how are these candidates vetted? I say candidate. How are these law firms vetted? Was there a particular, not that you needed to get everybody A, B, C, D, but you referenced you had worked with them before. Was there
Right.
other criteria that fell into that as far as experience, or what
Well,
was important to?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, recite
No, it's okay.
in any detail
Yeah.
of methodology other than to say, within our office, there's a number of attorneys, and all of us have had contact with various attorneys over the years. So through just a discussion process, tried to think of folks that we thought would be capable of performing this type of role. And that we did think, agreeing with Commissioner McAdoo, that having somebody out of county under the circumstances was probably a good idea at this point, which is why all of the names that we discussed with the mayor were for folks that would be out of county, just to avoid any potential conflict going forward. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, in all honesty, because we can't, reach out to somebody to hire them. The mayor can't until you've approved somebody, and at the same time, you can't approve somebody until we give you some names, which is why we wind up in this, conundrum where we have some names, but we don't even know with any certainty that these folks would agree to do it. But there's really no other clear methodology for it, because no one has the ability to hire them yet. So,
Well, that's actually, I think in this instance, it's actually a good thing in that there's no, or at least what appears to be on the surface of the mayor's point, there's no conflict of interest of somebody because you guys have worked with them, something like that. So given the nature of the entire conversation as a whole, conflict of interest should take front and center
right.
as a consideration point. And so the fact that you say, I don't know them, actually gives me a little bit of comfort. Instead of saying I've worked with them multiple times on many cases and things like that, where even the general public could look at that and say,
right.
here we go again. And that's
Right.
obviously what the ethics committee, we're trying to be as fair as we can to everybody involved.
Right.
And that's one thing I want to make sure that it publicly gets noticed, that this was not a wink type deal, that we don't have a big relationship with some of these firms, we haven't worked with them, it's just purely on professional reference from dealings inside a courtroom or from other areas of expertise that they might have that we didn't.
Right. Well, understand, part of what I said was lawyers in our office have worked with
Right.
these people. That's how we are familiar with them. So you can't say that we've never worked with
Right.
them, because that wouldn't be accurate. That's how we became familiar with them as attorneys in the first instance.
But you get my point, though. I mean, if it
No,
looks
right,
like
no.
there's a clear hand-holding there
I do.
somehow,
I do.
that's what we want to avoid. And I understand you don't want to ever refer somebody if you don't have background with them.
Right.
But again, my point was, given that we're on the ethics committee, conflict of interest is at the forefront of the public conversation right now as it relates to what we're looking into. So just so everybody's on the same page, I don't want to start getting calls from people saying, oh, you let them hire their buddies or something like that. That's not what's going on here. We sent something to the mayor and tasked you as a committee to come back with recommendations, and that's what you guys are doing.
And understand, whoever you recommend here, once the mayor reaches out to them, or Mr. Cope or whomever, they may say no.
They say no, yeah.
Or they may say, all offices run internal conflicts checks. So for example, Mr. Barry, who's now at Miller and Martin, he would run a conflicts check. Can I be confident or certain sitting here that there would be no conflict? Well, I can't be with certainty, but that's going to be true of anybody that's brought forward. They're going to go through that same process once they're asked to perform this task. So, and that's a good thing. That will cause them to perform that internal function, and then if they agree that no one in their office has a conflict in that performance of that role, then we can move forward with confidence.
Commissioner, thank you.
I'd
like to get a little bit of clarification, I guess, from the mayor on exactly how our agreement is stated and how we choose an attorney. You said something a minute ago, basically you are going out and deciding who you like, and then you're taking that to the county attorney, and the attorney can say yay or nay. Is that the way I understand what you said?
Let me just read the sentence to you then, if that would be helpful. This where it talks about additional matters that may come before the, present a need. It is understood that the county commission, upon the recommendation of the county mayor, with the advice, approval, and consent of the county attorney, may place certain cases or legal matters that present unique circumstances, such as a conflict of interest or the need for particular expertise, with outside counsel.
Okay, and the way I interpret that is the attorney, our attorney, the county attorney, Mr. Cope, his office, will determine whether there is conflict with his office. I understand that. But as far as choosing the person that will be doing that work, it sounds like he would have to be in complete agreement to whatever choice you came up with. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Correct. It's with my recommendation, he has to, he advises, you might say, with the recommendation that I
You
made.
give a recommendation, but he
But
has
it's with
to-
his advice
but
and
he
his
has to
consent
agree
and
to
his
it.
approval.
All right. And also, the end thing is, if the county commission as a whole did not like your choice, and the attorney's choice, we could say no, and you'd have to come back with another person. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want this straight in my mind. Thank you, sir.
One other thing.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Mayor, not that any of the local attorneys would be subjective in the way they approach this. I think what you're referring to is that maybe an out-of-town attorney could look at it a little bit more objectively. Is that your feelings?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I'd like to
Chairman
hear
Beatty.
from Mr. Beatty.
Okay, Chairman Beatty, do you have any questions or comments on?
No, sir, just that it was only the request of our committee
Okay.
to have the advice of counsel, and so we appreciate your consideration on that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you think the attorney should represent your committee or should represent all of the commissioners?
I can only speak for our committee. We certainly have requested an attorney that can represent us. Now, beyond that would certainly be y'all, but we need somebody who would help advise us as a committee.
I don't think the mayor should be too involved with this, because there are some people out there that pick up on the fact that the mayor and the sheriff have had some disputes in the last few months about the workhouse and et cetera, and we definitely don't want the public to think that the mayor is trying to pick somebody and has influence over somebody that's going to be investigating the sheriff. And so that's what my concern was that the commission picks somebody that we know is not going to be involved in that.
But I don't believe I'm like a gentleman on TV, I'm a simple man. I don't believe the way the contract and the way the situation reads with Mr. Cole, that there's any other situation other than the mayor being involved with it. Am I correct? Or am I that far out in left field?
Well, I just read that sentence to you.
Well, I'm a
It's
simple man,
understood
but that's what I
that the
understood.
county commission up on, which means after and with the recommendation of the mayor,
And Mr. Cole, the
may, may place certain legal matters under someone outside the firm of Mr. Cope.
So, Mr. Mayor, we've got two names here, and you're needing a motion to allow you to talk to these people and choose one?
Yes.
Okay, and that would be sent to the full commission, so you would submit a name?
And I would hope we would submit the name that's,
Okay.
one that's consented at the next full commission meeting.
Now, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Mayor, if for some reason one of these two or both of these did decline the conversation and decided they could not pursue that, would you come back to the commission, or would it have to come back through steering before we had that conversation again?
Well, I'll let you decide that.
Okay, well, I know
But
the
mean,
ethics
I
committee.
couldn't do anything further until the commission, and whether it starts with the steering committee or whether you choose to let me bring a third or fourth recommendation to the full commission, that's something you can decide.
I'll throw my 2 cents worth in it. I don't see a reason to come back to this committee if say the 2 that we've got here today decide that they can't represent us or don't want to, or for whatever they fell through. I mean, we're gonna have to come up with some more names that, you know, I don't know about the attorney that we happen to have on this committee, but I don't know either of these gentlemen that you've mentioned, or any of the 3, or had any dealings with them. So, you know, it sounds like they've got the background for it, especially, you know, having dealt with other counties and municipalities. So, you know, I feel fairly confident they'll be able to answer my questions.
I mean, the question that Mr. Turner asked, maybe you should answer. I mean, in the event they do both decline, what do you
well,
wish
that's
for us
where I
to
was
do? You want us
headed.
to bring
Yeah.
another name or names or recommendation back to the full commission without coming through this committee? I mean, that would be something I hope you'll clarify.
Mr. P, do you have a motion?
I would just move that he would be able to bring it to the full commission if it's more expedient, and we can get that done quicker and get an attorney back to the committee, because we were looking at speed to try to go ahead and get this behind us. We're all tired. I'm tired of hearing it, and I'm ready for this to be taken care of, you know, whichever way the chips fall.
So the motion gives him authorization to talk to these people, and then even further, if these 2 decline.
If they decline, for him to find others that he can bring forward to the full commission for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, sir.
I like the motion, but still, I'm gonna stick to my point that if he go out and find additional attorneys, or these 2 decline, that the attorneys be out of county. Because if we look at an attorney in this county, 9 times out of 10, I can check his voting record. He voted in the primary, or he voted in the general election. He supported this, he supported that. I think in this motion, it should be that the county mayor have the authority to submit additional names that he select from out of county.
Okay, do you want to amend the motion?
I like to amend the motion to that
I'll
effect.
accept that as part of my motion if they'll
Oh,
have it.
okay. So we got it as part of the motion.
Okay.
Is the second okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
So I'm still not sure, is this person, is the motion for the attorney to represent the ethics committee or to represent everybody?
Just the ethics committee, I think there's no consensus that you wanted to go any further than that.
Well, my question on that is, if it gets
Yes,
to the
he
full
mentioned-
commission, can they answer, would the attorney be able to answer questions, be able to seek advice from any of the commissioners?
I just don't think the commissioners need to be involved with the ethics committee.
I'm not saying the commissioners would be, but if
If we-
something comes to the full commission, and then I have a question, there's no one for me to ask.
Well, what,
If the ethics committee made a decision
Right.
to say we're moving as a county commission, could the commissioners at that time be able to
Be able to
dialogue
ask a
with
question
the
of the
attorney?
attorney.
but sort of a little point of clarification, I don't really think that this person should be talking to you guys individually, but if it moves from the ethics commission to the board of commissioners, I think the board of commissioners could potentially want to call this person in and ask questions at an executive session as a group.
So then you have to represent all of us.
Yeah. You represent the commission.
If it got to the commission from the ethics
Yeah.
committee.
That's up to you to
Yeah,
decide if you want that
right.
additional authority or not.
Right.
So
Well,
he only represents us, he only represents the committee unto a certain point, and then his representation expands? If he,
They have some options. The ethics committee could refer this to the board of commissioners for censure. And then maybe you might have questions about that process. I don't know.
I think that the reason that the ethics committee is needing legal counsel is the same reason that the full commission could potentially need legal counsel. And if it's just to the ethics committee, then we would have to go out and hire another lawyer.
I guess
It's
my
not
concern
hard.
is midstream, we're changing the scope of the representation, maybe. I mean, how do you put that in your contract? At what point does the representation go from the ethics committee to the full commission?
Couldn't the attorney that's eventually hired to do this represent the ethics committee to the full commission? Couldn't we just ask him those type of questions, Josh? If this came before the full commission as in some type of censorship that you've mentioned, couldn't he still represent the ethics committee and we could just ask questions?
Probably not, because in that instance, I think if the initial representation is limited to the ethics committee, then his ability to respond to questions and so forth is really limited to the ethics committee members in that context.
Okay.
So, I think you
But
would
if
have
it's
to
not
go
limited
one
to
way or
the
the
ethics
other.
committee,
Right.
then the commissioners could ask questions.
If it's not, right, if it's not limited, that would be true. I mean, to Mr. Stevens' point, there would have to be some triggering event where you knew that this person's representation had expanded, I suppose.
Well, that trigger point though would be if the ethics committee made a motion to move it to the county commission, then we'd have to have that conversation, right?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be that.
Well, I think
Could
that's
be
the only
triggering.
time the county commissioners would be involved based on the options that the ethics committee has in front of them after seeking counsel or having follow-up meeting.
Right.
I think that's what Robert's point was, is
Right.
where's the clear cut where it becomes 5 ethics committee members and then it becomes 21 commission members can call an attorney or ask questions. I think that's, I don't want to speak for you, I think that's what his concern was, is where's the different, where do we cut, draw the line.
Right. And that could be the determining factor if it were referred to the full commission.
Well, I'm just speaking for me, I'm fine if it just stays with the ethics committee, because I think we could always revisit that, because that's just one of 4 options that we have. I don't know if we need to do all of that now. I think the original intent, at least for me, don't want to speak for Commissioner Peter, Mr. Beatty, or anyone else, was the ethics committee was seeking legal counsel. That's what I'm proposing, is that we keep the counsel for the ethics committee at this point. And if we need to revisit that, we can revisit that. But I don't want to say we'll have to, but I know what the motion was, and I'm comfortable with just keeping it with the ethics committee for now.
So is that part of your motion, that it's just the ethics committee?
I didn't specify one way or the other in my motion and hadn't intended to specify, but since we're going down that route, I know as a county commissioner, if the ethics committee decided they wanted to censor, then I would have questions, and I assume Commissioner Gooch would. So I don't want to limit this guy to being able to answer to just us. I mean, if we're gonna hire him to answer to 3 commissioners, I don't see that he should have the ability to answer to 21, plus the other 2 ethics committee members. Just thinking along those lines now, maybe Josh, maybe you tell me there's a compelling reason that we should only limit this to the ethics committee. Is there? If there's not, I would assume that we would just use him as we needed him.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Stevens that I think if you're going to expand it, you want to be very clear about what would trigger the expansion and what the expansion includes. So I do think it needs to be well defined if you're going to expand it. What I'm hearing you all say is that it would be limited to the issue that is going to be considered by the ethics committee, to that issue. And in the hypothetical circumstance that issue got referred by the ethics committee to the full commission, then this person could participate in front of the full commission for purposes of answering questions associated with that referral and possible action by the county commission. That's what I'm hearing you say, and that would be the limitations of it and the triggering event.
But not until.
That's what I heard. It's your motion, not
That's
mine.
right.
I'm just telling you what I heard you say.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
that's kind of where I was going, was to that.
Right.
The watershed is when, if the ethics committee refers it to the county commission,
Right.
then it becomes an attorney that can answer questions from the county commission. So that's exactly where I was going, Josh.
Well,
It stays with the ethics committee until the ethics committee, if they deem that necessary, make the decision to move it to the full commission. that's what I would support, because right now I think it just needs to, I think that's what
I
Commissioner
concur,
P was getting
too.
right there.
I concur.
Because if I'm fine with that, if we put that in the motion, that this is an ethics committee attorney until we get to that point. If we get to that point of moving it to the full commission, then it becomes an attorney on record for the commission.
We could always go back and amend the contract too. If your original contract is just for the ethics committee, we could go back at another meeting and amend it to
Right.
expand the
That's true.
representation to
That's true
everybody.
too. If that if and when happened, you could always just change the contract at that
And
time.
if I'm a client looking for an attorney, I want somebody that's loyal to me. I don't want somebody that's gonna be loyal to a bunch of other people and have to answer their questions and get them involved in the process too. I want them to answer my questions and do what's best for me. So I think the attorney needs to represent only the ethics committee. And
But the way he stated it, he wouldn't be answering any questions from the commissioners unless he came to the commission.
well, and see,
In which case, I would want them to answer those questions.
but we could amend the contract then.
At that point in time, it'll be
You
a
could, but
contract.
it would be another month.
Well, all the commission can do is censor. I mean, that's
I'm saying what you can do or can't do.
That's
That's the sort of the situation
if we
we're in
push that
now
off-
is
if we push a censor motion off for 1 month, that's not gonna change anything other than the fact that we're
Always call it
dissatisfied.
special reading or something.
Ms. Shelton, would you read the motion as you understand it to be?
I have allowed the county mayor to talk with Doug Berry and John T. Bobo, attorneys on representation as to the sheriff's issues, and upon consent, present to the commission. And if these two attorneys decline, the mayor is to bring other names from out-of-county attorneys to the commission. This attorney will be the ethics committee attorney until the issue moves to the commission.
Any other discussion?
Maybe until and if it
If it
moves.
moves to the commission.
To put if instead of until. Any other discussion?
And I would like to amend the motion to require the attorney to disclose the names of anyone who contacts him or her about this matter, that's not on the ethics committee, to the ethics committee, so that everybody knows who's trying to call and get questions answered or possibly influence this attorney.
Would that include the mayor, since he's gonna have to approach them to ask?
He won't be hired until the contract is signed, but yes, I don't think the mayor should be involved with the attorney either.
Well,
The
he's gonna have to
attorney-
be involved to hire him. That's what I'm saying.
but I think he's saying after
After
the
the- after
he's
the
hired,
engaged.
He represents the ethics committee, he doesn't represent us, he doesn't represent the mayor, he represents the ethics committee.
I have no problem with that.
That's an amendment to the
Yes.
motion? I'll second that.
Well, Commissioner P and Commissioner Turner, would y'all accept that in your motion?
I would. That's fine with me.
So if anyone calls this attorney, he's got to make a notation and release that information to who?
To the ethics
The
committee.
ethics committee.
And I think that's gonna discourage anyone from calling and trying to
Right.
persuade this person to do this or do that, or to get information.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, it's been properly seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, let's go back, I meant to say this while ago, how much am I authorized to engage this attorney for? Up to, but not to exceed what Mr. Cope's hourly rate is that?
I thought that was understood.
That was my
Is that
understanding.
understood?
Yeah.
I was
My
gonna be sure.
understanding also.
Well,
That was my understanding.
Okay.
exceed our county attorney.
Okay, next we need to recommend an attorney to provide software legal support. Mr. Mayor?
As you are well aware, from time to time, we are engaging in acquiring, leasing, or otherwise, software these contracts are complex, very much detailed and out of our scope of routine exposure and experience. Therefore, under advice and discussion with Mr. Cope and Mr. McCreary, we think it's advisable, because in specific, we've had one contract regarding this information that's obtained through a process of a company called Pictometry that provides information to our assessor's office that allows them some improved abilities at the desk to review and make appraisal. Our county attorney has not been comfortable in opining to the language in that because he's just not experienced and exposed to those kinds of terminologies, and none of us are really. So all of that to say, he has had some exposure to this one person that's in a firm called Carroll and Carragillian that has some expertise here. So this is, we want some authority to use this particular firm from time to time as we have these complex contracts regarding software products to advise and help us review those contracts and make whatever the changes are necessary to protect the overall interest of Rutherford County. Mr. McCreary, you can add to that.
Well, I can try. I think that was a good explanation. The bottom line is what happens is this. As technology improves, technology contracts are increasingly becoming commonplace. Some of these contracts deal with intellectual property issues like patents and licenses and things like that. They're very, very highly specialized areas of the law. And as you might expect, like technology in general, the law in that area is constantly evolving, changing, and rapidly moving forward in different directions. And you really need somebody in these circumstances who is constantly in that area who is well versed in those kinds of issues when these types of contracts come up. This is not an everyday occurrence, but they do come up from time to time for the county. And in those instances, it would be helpful, I think, for the mayor to have somebody that he can communicate with on these issues, to consult with on an as-needed basis. And that would be the purpose for this.
Any questions from the
Is
commission?
this only for this specific pictometry, or is this for anything that might come up in the future?
I would like for you to make it broader than just pictometry, make it the broader. We have a little resolution, let me see, that Mr. Cope has prepared. I don't know whether we put that out there or not.
It's down here at the bottom.
Down at the bottom, it says, be it further resolved that the county mayor has represented that sufficient funds are budgeted available for the employment of Carroll and Carragillian in these pending matters, and this authorization shall be a continuing resolution authorization for other and further utilization of the law firm of Carroll and Carragillian upon such terms as a condition as the mayor may determine. So we want it broader than just this one particular entity, because there is already a discussion of a forthcoming acquisition at the sheriff's office at some point in the future. We don't know whether it's this year or next year.
Well,
That will have a very sophisticated, again, another piece of software that needs this kind of review.
I mean, is this something we're gonna continue throughout your term? I mean, how long is this?
This would be open-ended, yes.
Past your term?
I don't know about past my term. The next mayor may not recommend this firm.
Well, I mean, I don't know how, I understand the need, and we definitely do. We've got some problems in this area, and I think all of us know that. But, I don't know, maybe I'd like to see the results or what they can do after once, or maybe a second time, and then maybe we decide that we don't want these people, we want somebody else.
Well, we could do, that could very well happen. I might not
Well,
be happy with it
Well,
myself
not if,
either.
well, not if we have an open-ended agreement where we're gonna have them from now on. I'm just saying, this doesn't sound like it's limited.
But we wouldn't give him an open-ended agreement. I mean, we would only refer these from time to time as they occurred.
The mayor could always choose not to use it.
Well,
I mean, it's not obligated.
could we ask that you bring it to one of the committees steering or whoever each time that you decide to use it? Use
Certainly,
them?
Probably.
Well, that's the only stipulation. I wanna know when we're having to do
We could
this.
give notice.
And I'm not trying to limit you or, I just want to know.
Maybe you could just update the committee from time to time. Commissioner Johnson?
This company that you're recommending or that you have, they're on the cutting edge of all the technology that everybody's aware of. They're on the cutting edge of it, so to speak.
I'll have to let Mr. McCray and Mr. Cope, I think, has more knowledge about this than even Mr. McCreary, but do you have any feedback from him
I
on
mean,
that?
only in the sense that I'm aware that that our office has been involved with this guy in some other circumstances, and he's done a an outstanding job, as I understand it, and is very much in tune at being a northeastern United States guy with technology and the progress of technology and technology contracts and intellectual property as it relates to those things. And that he's doing that regularly so that he's, in it all the time.
I realize, that it's an ongoing process, an ongoing
Right.
change, but would there not be, addressing Mr. P's concern there about, into infinity, would there not be some sort of escape clause in this in the event that they didn't, perform like they should? That you could terminate the contract?
I don't know how, this agreement would not necessarily say that we're gonna give you an opportunity to review every software contract that comes forth in the future. We would engage them on situation by situation, would we not?
That's the way I understand it.
And it's really a one-off deal, right? I mean, if we like them, we keep using them. If we don't, the mayor's
Right.
not locked in, and the county's not locked down. I think
That's
that's what
right.
Mr. P was getting at, was
Right.
Yeah.
we don't want to come back
Well,
and he's,
using like the pictometry contract as the example, because that's
Right.
that's on the table right now. If he were going to review that, it would be a limited engagement for purposes of review of the
Review.
pictometry contract. At that point, this guy's engagement is over, and at some point there may be another contract that comes along that would be appropriate for his review. But the mayor may have decided by then he doesn't want to use this guy again. He wouldn't be obligated to. But if he did want to at that point, he could. That's what I think the resolution authorizes.
Well, that's what I thought it authorizes, and my point is, I may not be happy with him, and the mayor may be happy with him, and I think the commission deserves the right to say, no, we don't want this guy.
Okay.
So I
You
would
do,
say,
you have that right.
well, that's, I want this petition, if we do and go ahead and forward this to the full commission for approval, I mean, I want that stated in there that the commission has final say on any attorney they're hired.
I think that if that's kind of, the commission can do that anyway, but we can put that into the motion.
Well, I mean, you just heard our attorney say that's not what it said, so.
Yeah, but the
I
county,
think-
the county commission has full authority to.
Well, I just want to make sure it's spelled out in what we're approving here.
We don't vote not to pay him.
Well,
Well,
then you got a bill hanging over your head that you're gonna be sued about.
That'd be all right. I'd just like to bring up this point. Motion, the resolution sounds good, but, I'm still skeptical of it because this county is a fee office driven county. And we have something like this, what is saying that the fee office or whatever can't go out and hire their attorney. I like to see all elected officials or whatever feed off this one resolution. Because I don't want to come up here and we've hired this attorney based on his programmability or whatever, and then I look over here and this group done hired this attorney, then I look over here and this one done hired this attorney. I like to see one that they all feed off of. In other words, if the resolution can read, where it's offered to other departments or elected officials in the county to use also, I just think that need to be in there somewhere.
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about who the attorney represents. Is it the commission or is it the mayor?
The attorney represents Rutherford County with respect to that contract that's being executed by Rutherford County. The commission has only given the mayor permission to sign it with your approval.
So, I mean, if there's a dispute between this office and that office, hypothetically, or this fee officer and the county commission, I just don't think we can make it open-ended like that to where it applies to everybody. Because then they're gonna have to recuse themselves and we'll have to get another person to come in.
I think we can go out there and offer it, whether they turn it down or not, it was on the table that it was offered. That's what I'm looking at. Just like, for an example, if you running the department, I'm running the department, I got legal counsel, and I offer you the legal counsel, and you said, no, I don't want it, then that's on record that you were offered it, and you refused to get it, and then I got something to deal with as we go down the road. Right now, I don't have anything to deal with. I don't know who's doing what.
I think my concern with that, Commissioner McAdoo, just a little bit if I can. What do you do if you have two departments and you offer both of them and both of them want it, and it almost comes to the one that says yes first gets it and the second one's kind of stuck holding the bag? You see what I'm saying? That I don't know what we would do then if we did move forward with that. I'd be concerned that you'd have two departments that could both say yes, or one could get asked it first and say yes, and the second department wouldn't have an opportunity to respond quick enough. Then they'd be left, as I said, holding the bag and having to fund their own. Is that right? I don't want to put you in between this, but you see my concern is if we did what Commissioner McAdoo was saying, I'd feel uncomfortable offering that to, well, Mr. Mitchell's here or anybody.
Right.
And if Mr. Mitchell happens to be eating lunch and he gets a phone call and misses it and it goes in their department, he might be having a conflict with Mr. Farley or someone. Mr. Farley jumps on it and says yes. Mr. Mitchell can say that he was offered that, but he couldn't take it because he missed it. Does that make sense? I don't want...
No, I'm completely confused. All we're really talking about here is getting a person that's experienced in software contracts, patents and all these other things, to give us a basic opinion and review of all this in some detail that gives us comfort when we sign the contract, we've signed something reasonable. Now, he's not representing us in any lawsuit, period, yet.
Right, I was addressing what Mr. McAdoo said.
This person is only a person that we're using in the stead of our county attorney to give us some reasonable comfort that when we sign my name there on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, that we've done our best due diligence to have an effective and reasonable contract. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, that's true, but when that contract come up for us to sign, and then I got another department over here that's elected or whatever, and they have to sign it.
Now, is this another completely independent piece of software?
Correct.
That has nothing to do with the first
Right.
office or department?
Right.
Okay, so he might very well still do that for that department too, but we're not going to have these many occurrences.
I hope not.
Maybe it's one every year or two or three. I don't know.
I hope not, but if we do, I want it open where.
Well, I understand, I agree we need an attorney that can do this, but the person needs to represent the commission. If he represents the commission and then turns around and represents the sheriff's office in reviewing this agreement too, and there turns out to be a dispute between the sheriff and the commission, we might like that attorney wanting to represent us, but if he's also giving the sheriff advice about the contract, he's got a conflict of interest, and now we have to hire somebody else to represent us.
This person is representing the commission. Our county attorney represents Rutherford County. The commission is, you guys authorize the execution of this agreement. You will authorize the execution of this resolution and the terms of the agreement that we have with this person. That's the only person that's authorizing us to engage this individual or this firm.
But I think if there's a lawsuit, it's not going to be a lawsuit between two departments. It's going to be a lawsuit between a department and a vendor.
That's right.
And so there's no conflict. It's just if there's a contract that comes out of the election commission, for example, and this attorney reviews it, everything's fine, they sign it, and then there's a breach, then it's just Rutherford County against this vendor. I mean, we've got a lawyer that's already reviewed this contract, so it's not. I don't see it as two departments competing against needing representation. It's just reviewing whatever software contracts come up, and if there's any lawsuits, it's going to be against the vendor, not each other. Is that my understanding?
Well, just to be clear, and I think everybody's saying this, this lawyer wouldn't be representing anybody in any lawsuit. This is just for contract review purposes, to the extent contracts arise that require this type of expertise, somebody would be available to send it to. That's how this would work. And sometimes things inside a county get complicated, as Commissioner Stevens points out. But I'm kind of a simplistic person, and I basically view this person as viewing Rutherford County, and to the extent any contract would be approved by the county commission, then that person would review the contract. It's going to come through the county commission, and by extension then is representing the county commission as the elected legislative body of this county in the review, but only in the review. So that's how I view this. And is it possible that something could come up where there's some elected official who has a contract or something, and there's some anomaly about, can this person look at this contract? Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. But I don't think that's going to be the typical situation that we're dealing with. I think typically what's going to happen is these things filter through the mayor's office at some point. He wants a review. Some of these deal with these type of specialized issues. It's somebody to review it and gain that comfort level with respect to the contract.
Mayor, do you have a copy of the recommended motion for the clerk?
Yes, it's,
I don't think we have a copy.
okay. Here's the resolution.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the recommendation of entering dialogue with this attorney for the purpose of representing the county in software and legal support issues.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any
Could
discussion?
you read that resolution, please?
Whereas the county presently has pending contractual matters and issues involving contracts with pictometry on behalf of the Rutherford County Property Assessor and computer-aided dispatch, TriTech, requiring particular expertise with regard to the subject matter of the contracts which necessitate the utilization of outside counsel, and whereas the county mayor and county attorney concur that the particular matters are suitable for handling by the outside expertise of the Pennsylvania law firm of Carroll and Caragillian. He's very nice. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Commission that since the county mayor, with the approval and consent of the county attorney, has recommended the employment of the firm of Carroll and Caragillian LLP to be paid in accordance with agreed upon rates established by the county mayor with the firm of Carroll and Caragillian LLP, that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to employ and pay the law firm of Carroll and Caragillian LLP. It is further resolved that the county mayor has represented that sufficient funds are budgeted and available for the employment of Carroll and Caragillian LLP in these pending matters, and that this authorization shall be a continuing resolution and authorization for other and further utilization of the law firm of Carroll and Caragillian LLP upon such terms and conditions as the mayor may determine.
Any discussion? All in favor,
I
please
would,
say aye.
I would
Go ahead.
amend that resolution to add with county commission approval on further jobs that these people might do. In other words, we're giving approval for this particular pictometry, but if another one came up, we'd like to reapprove.
Who seconded that? Who made the motion?
I made the motion, that's fine, that, I'm fine with that
Okay.
language.
And who seconded the motion?
Phillips, I think.
Commissioner Phillips.
No, not good with it.
Okay. So you're not good with it because
Because I like the way it was stated to start with.
okay, then I'm going to take that out of the motion, and then you can amend the motion. If you want to put that
Well,
in.
I've made my amendment.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, is there a second to amendment?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Mr. McCurry, can you comment on the amendment, what that does to the
I mean,
motion?
Let's get a bit of clarification, and does that mean?
If there's another group of software that comes out, we'd like you to bring it to us.
There are two pieces mentioned even here. There's the computer CAD system that the sheriff is currently getting, which is a much simpler process. It's, that's mentioned there too. So,
I think it's anything
you're-
after this motion.
Anything that's
comes
not
forward.
mentioned by name in this motion, you're
Correct.
saying if something else comes up, then it would be brought back and say, now there's this contract, and
Right.
so
we want you to
the
approve
last
this.
paragraph where we talk about authorization shall be a continuing resolution, we're basically striking that part of it.
Right.
And we'd have to come forth with the same kind of approach next time.
So every time there's a contract, we're just gonna have the lawyer read the contract and give us advice. We have to
So
go
I
back to the
think
full
if,
commission.
if we would just all agree to strike that this authorization shall be a continuing resolution and authorization for order, other and further utilization, we just take all that last phrase out of this.
I would be fine with that.
So, without
Well,
objection.
the second is not fine with that, so we're gonna take this in the
Okay.
form of a motion,
Okay, take it in the
an
form of a
amendment.
I'm okay with that.
No, I'm talking about the,
He was the second of the original motion.
Second of the amendment or the second
no,
of the?
he's talking about changing the motion.
Okay.
The second of the motion is not okay with this, so that's why we accept the
So what-
amendment.
So I'd like for you to make the amendment say that we strike the the amendment, and the second, if you would agree that we just strike the language that says that starting after pending matters there. Okay?
Okay, so we have the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
That's, my reason for not doing that is because the mayor's elected by every citizen in the county, and I think there are some things that he is closer to than any of the other commissioners because he works at this job 60 hours a week, and he should have the flexibility to do that without coming back to the commission time and time and time again, if that's what ends up being. So that's just my reason and rationale.
How many contracts do you estimate we do a year?
Software contracts is really all we're talking about.
Well, yes, sir, that's what
There may be years there's zero.
Yes, yeah, right.
It could
From
be from
zero
zero.
to 3 or 4.
I meant. Okay. We're voting on the amendment. All in favor for the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Now we're voting on the full motion as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. I mean, I didn't vote no. I voted yes. I'm just let me have one no. Motion passes. Okay, Highway Commission, Private Act, I'm going to invite to the table Mr. Farley. What you got for us, Mr. Farley?
Well, I thought it was simple compared to what y'all been dealing with. It's very simple. But it's a legal matter and I'm not an attorney. When doing research planning for the 2016 election, we did research to see who all's on the ballot for 2016. So we could prepare for that. Well, in looking at this, there was some work that was done with the two private acts dealing with the Highway Commission, that there was a minor error that was made. So what we're needing to do is to amend the two private acts to reflect, if we carry out the private act as it is written, we will short-term one of the road board members to a 2-year term, which by law we can't do that. But basically what has happened, if you look under private chapter number 47, and the next to the, or the last paragraph, but in the second sentence, it refers to District 1, well, and as of the August 2012 general election. Well, prior in 2012, District 1, 5, and 7 changed numbers to reflect what the school board districts and zones are. Well, by this here, that should say District 5. District 5 was actually on the ballot in 2012, which would be up for re-election in 2016, or for election 2016. And then on the next page...
District 5 was the intent.
Yes, sir. On the next paragraph in 2014 general election, and these are giving the alternate years of where they're not all elected in the same year like the county commission is. But road district 5 should be 1 because in 2014 road district member or zone member 1 was on the ballot in 2014. So what actually was carried through the office that was on the ballot was correct. The document is wrong just by an error in putting zone 5 and zone 1. And then in private chapter number 59, it's the same thing there. What it is that District 1 should reflect there where it says at the August 2012 general election, that should say District 5, And then the next paragraph in the August 24th general election should say District 1. So all this is doing is correcting typo, error, whatever. But this here, because if for some reason somebody was to look at it 10 years from now and catch this, then so it's just correcting from that standpoint. So just bringing that to your attention.
Can that be corrected this legislative session?
The session has adjourned for
That's what I'm
this year,
saying.
so it will be January before it will be able to go back before the General Assembly.
But no harm, no foul, no elections.
All that has been carried out properly. It's just the way it reflects in the document, because the numbers change when they change that to mirror the school board. Because we were looking at, we contacted the road board to let them, or to the highway department, let them know this is who we have coming up on the ballot, and they said no, because the road board member for District 1 was just on the ballot 2 years ago. So that's how we call this glitch here, and so we want to rectify it.
So the notations that you made on House Bill 47 and House Bill 59, that's the motion you're needing to
Yes,
to
sir.
make your notations.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
What discussion do we have? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. In the meantime, just use some white out.
Well,
Let's not, please.
we'll make sure it's
Okay.
properly documented and
You use
go through
white
that
out,
process.
then you'll
All
need
right,
a
chapter
lawyer.
47.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure we follow the law. And this fact, the law wasn't, there was a typo.
Okay, so the motion was.
What do you want your motion, what does the motion need to say?
It needs to say in Private Act 47 that the 1 needs to be changed to Roman numeral 5, and Roman numeral 5 needs to change to 1, and in the 59, the reverse. Same thing.
If you need help on that, we need to hire a
Hey,
lawyer.
I'll call.
outside counsel.
Yeah. I mean, District 1 is actually District 5, and the paragraph where it talks about August 2012 general election, and then the August 2014 general election, that should be District 1.
Yeah. Yeah, what you're looking at has the changes that need to be made.
Okay, but do you want something in this motion as to when we're gonna submit
And
it,
we
or?
submit it to the General Assembly as soon as they convene 2016.
But I didn't want to wait because
I would not.
forget about it. And
If you send it now, it may be lost by then, so let's just send it down when they're back down there.
Okay,
Get it? Got it?
changes. Everything's
Okay.
good.
Any other business for the committee? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.